Part 46. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 451. After calming down, Yukiubai narrowed his eyes and replied, "Your Majesty is wise." Chu Qinghuang sighed lightly. "The minister is indeed here to wait for His Majesty on purpose," Yukiubai said. Anyway, the other party had already seen through his mind. Denying it would seem hypocritical and pretentious. Today, the little sister was invited to the palace for tea by the Queen Mother. I escorted the little sister into the palace. After that, I had nowhere to go, so I simply walked in the garden, thinking that I might be lucky enough to see Your Majesty, but I didn't expect that Your Majesty actually came. I asked Your Majesty the Queen to forgive me." Chu Qinghuang raised his eyebrows. "So, you and I are still destined to be together." "I don't dare," Yukiubai said. "I am honored." Chu Qinghuang lowered his eyes at the teacup and took a slow sip. Teifuyu was the former teacher of the Supreme Emperor, not the teacher of the princes, so he always remained neutral on the matter of competing for the heir apparent. Yukiubai is the most valued grandson of Teifuyu. If King Xian did not fall out of power, but became the emperor as he wished, then not only the Qin family could continue to be prosperous, but Princess Xian became the queen, and the Yu family would also become the new uncle's house. Yukiubai, the direct grandson of the Yu family, is a serious young uncle, and he is also a learned noble son, with great honor and unparalleled dignity. Among the noble sons of the imperial family, and even the civil and military officials of the entire dynasty, who would not be able to respectfully call me little uncle when they see him. Therefore, people's fate is really unpredictable. One thought can lead them to the clouds, and the other can lead them to hell. "Is Mr. Yu worried about settling the scores with me later, so he asked you to please me?" Chu Qinghuang said calmly. "Your sister must have wiped her tears in front of you." Yukiubai was slightly shocked, lowered his head and said, "Your Majesty is aware of this. Outsiders think that I am a ruthless person who eradicates dissidents and kills people like crazy. I am a bloodthirsty evil god," Chu Qinghuang said indifferently. "It is not surprising that Master Yu has such worries, but I will not anger the Yu family. I have no interest in you either." Yukiubai was slightly startled. Young Master Yu seems to be a proud man with good character. He has never succumbed to those shallow and gossipy people before, and now there is no need to put down his pride and commit himself to perfection because of the downfall of the princes. Chu Qinghuang looked at him. "I cherish talent and love talent. What you cherish is talent and learning. What you love is character. It is not a pretense and show-off. Of course, it is not a posture of humiliation and humiliation for the sake of the overall situation." Yukiubai lowered his head. All the pretense and pride were torn to pieces at this moment. His face was as red as a boiled shrimp, but deep in his heart, for some reason, a stream of heat slowly arose and spread throughout his limbs. "I am so ashamed," he said in a low voice. "Your Majesty has a broad heart, which is beyond my expectation. You are not young anymore. Since you are determined to have an official career, why didn't you take the scientific examination last year?" Yukiubai's face froze, and he hesitated for a moment whether he should tell the truth or not. However, he hesitated for only a moment, and he blushed and said, "I am narrow-minded," and once said arrogantly, "I only want to be loyal to the Ming dynasty with everything I have learned. When Your Majesty came to the throne, I was biased against Your Majesty, thinking that when Zhan and others could be admitted to the imperial examination, His Majesty took advantage of his status to take advantage of him and did not want to be associated with him, so he decided to wait for another 3 years to see whether His Majesty behaves and governs the world as a wise king." Chu Qinghuang said calmly, "That's it?" Yukiubai thought of Chu Qinghuang's use of young ministers to govern the world with an iron fist. He thought of Ziki's growing national power and Her Majesty the Queen's empty harem, and she felt even more foolish. For a moment, I just felt ashamed. I have a villain's heart. Even though I am proud in every way, I am narrow-minded, short-sighted and self-righteous. I have read 10 years of sage books in vain. Please forgive me. Chu Qinghuang was silent for a moment. What crime do you think should be punished? Yu Qiubai was stunned, then lowered his eyes and thought for a while. You should be punished by the rod for presuming the holy will. In that case, let's pull him down and beat him. Chu Qinghuang turned around and ordered, 15 sticks. Chu Xuanyi accepted the order, went out and ordered the guards, pull Mr. Yu down with 15 sticks. The guard on duty quickly came over and took Yu Qiubai down. Chu Qinghuang finished a cup of tea and said calmly, what do you think of Yu Qiubai? Chu Xuanyi said, I dare not speak nonsense. Yu Qiubai should have good knowledge, but he is too proud, has a strong self-esteem, and is thin-skinned. He needs to work hard. Chu Qinghuang looked outside the Nuan pavilion. Her voice was so light that she couldn't hear her emotions. If you want to study but don't want to be an official, it's okay to be proud. Scholars will inevitably be a little arrogant, but it's not okay to be too proud if you want to be an official. Chu Xuanyi was silent and seemed to understand what Chu Qinghuang meant. Your Majesty said it. Speculating on the holy will is the second best, and self-righteousness is the biggest taboo. Chu Qinghuang stood up and walked to the window, opened it a little, and let the wind blow in. Although what he just said was the truth, he didn't tell the whole truth. When I came to the throne, 30 more places were added for the imperial examination to select talents, which was a good thing for those candidates, but Yu Qiubai obviously didn't think so. Chu Xuanyi lowered his eyebrows and said, I am stupid. Chu Qinghuang was silent for a moment. If you are stupid, just be stupid. I don't need to explain everything to you. Yes. I will order someone to send Yu Qiubai out of the palace later. The Queen Mother will know the news of his beating as soon as possible. There is no need to hide it from outside the palace. Chu Qinghuang turned and walked out. Let's see who else dares to make plans in the future. On my body. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 452. The Queen Mother, the palace attendant quickly walked into the palace with a slightly anxious tone. The news just came over there that Mr. Yu was punished by Her Majesty the Queen. As soon as these words came out, the faces of the ladies who were having tea in the Queen Mother's palace all changed. Yu Jing'ai stood up suddenly. What's going on? The Queen Mother's face immediately turned ugly. Why? I heard it was a disgrace before you. Yu Jing'ai couldn't wait any longer, so she turned around and walked out. Second Miss Yu, the palace man stopped her quickly. Young Master Yu has been sent out of the palace. Yu Jing'ai nodded hurriedly. I understand. She quickly walked away. As soon as she left, Yun Yao, the young princess of Prince Rong's mansion, also stood up. The Queen Mother, please rest first, I will leave. Yun Xian, the young lady from the Prince's Palace of Kong County, stood up and said, Your Majesty, please leave. Several other girls stood up one after another and were gone in the blink of an eye. The Queen Mother sat on the phoenix chair and watched them leave one by one without saying a word. Her face was as sinking as water, and she slowly tightened her grip on the teacup in her hand. The news that young Master Yu was beaten with a cane in the palace soon spread, and the young masters from the imperial capital's family couldn't help but start talking about it after dinner. Is Her Majesty the Queen not interested in men now, or does she simply look down on the Yu family? Maybe it's because he doesn't get close to men. Since His Majesty ascended the throne, the harem has been empty. It's very different from his previous style. It's probably because he doesn't like these proactive methods of getting closer. Although the Yu family is no longer as prosperous as it once was, Tutor Yu is highly respected after all. It should be impossible for Her Majesty the Queen to deal with the Yu family. Moreover, the Yu family did not favor any prince in the fight for the heir in those years, and he is not considered to be anyone's party member. That's true. But it seems that the wishful thinking of many officials is in vain. Her Majesty the Queen does not seem to have plans to fill the harem at the moment. Those young men from aristocratic families who have ideas will be old in a few years. What are you afraid of when you get older? A new generation of young men has risen again. As long as Her Majesty the Queen wants to choose one, she will not worry about not having a suitable candidate. This is true. Those who are anxious are always those who want to enter the palace or who want to send their sons to the palace. As for Her Majesty the Queen, she is definitely not in a hurry. Anyway, no matter when the draft is held, there will be young and handsome men for her to choose from. Chu Qinghuang had no interest in paying attention to these outsiders' thoughts. Yu Qiubai's appearance was just an episode to her. Even though this man was knowledgeable and somewhat arrogant, it was nothing strange to her. First, polish his aloofness. If he can understand this clearly, he can be reused in the future. If he always insists on that unnecessary aloofness and cannot let go of his excessive self-esteem, even if he can become an official, he will be doomed. Can't reach too high a position. In late February, Fuqiang came back. After escorting the grain and grass to the border safely, he rode his horse back first, and Qi Ling took over the grain and grass. At the same time, Zhong Zongjin sent a batch of heavy bows and arrows to Qi Ling in the name of the court, which undoubtedly improved the fighting morale of the soldiers. Protecting the home and country is the duty of the military. However, with the king's strong support from the rear, military pay and food can be fully guaranteed, which obviously gives soldiers more confidence and reduces worries. After being out for nearly 2 months, Fuqiang has become obviously calmer, his posture is upright, and his eyebrows are stained by wind and dust, giving him a bit more tempered sharpness and restrained demeanor. Fortunately, my subordinates have lived up to their orders and delivered the grain and grass safely to General Qi at the border. Fuqiang knelt down on one knee and said in a calm and powerful voice, "Everything goes well in the border war. Please rest assured, Master." Chu Qinghuang had a lot of information at hand, but at this time she didn't want to waste any more time on piles of government affairs. Standing up, she walked to Fuqiang, looked at him for a while, and said calmly, "He seems a little haggard." Fuqiang reached out and touched his face. It is inevitable to be exposed to wind and sun when transporting food and grass. It is normal to feel haggard. Chu Qinghuang hummed and asked him to stand up. Did anything unexpected happen along the way? No, it went very well. Fuqiang shook his head. The head of the Zhou family also helped a little. He also prepared a batch of grain and grass from other cities and sent it over. The grain in the border granary will be enough for 3 months. It's just the new addition. The fodder used by the war horses was not included in the calculation, and there was a slight shortage. Later, we worked hard to make up for it. Chu Qinghuang nodded. Yes, he is becoming more and more like a person who does great things. Fuqiang lowered his eyebrows. His eyebrows were soft, they are all cultivated by the master. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 453. I think I should reward you. Chu Qinghuang's tone was very gentle, with a somewhat relaxed smile. Tell me, what do you want? Border soldiers would be rewarded for winning battles, so there was no reason why her little wolf cub couldn't get any praise. What do you want? Fuqiang frowned. He wanted nothing but his master. But Fuqiang raised his eyes and looked at Chu Qinghuang with burning eyes. There was a hint of straightforwardness in his eyes. Is everything okay? Chu Qinghuang took a sip of tea, nodded and said, of course. As long as you bring it up, it's fine. She just wanted to know how brave this guy was now and what kind of demands he dared to make. My subordinate wants to take a bath. Fuqiang lowered his eyebrows and said, I want to take a bath with the master. Chu Qinghuang paused while holding the teacup. She raised her eyes slightly and looked at Fuqiang subtly, secretly thinking that she was indeed brave enough to make such an explicit request. Should I say that he is a teachable child? If master feels something is wrong, you can pretend that I didn't say anything. Fuekang coughed uncomfortably and lowered his eyes, trying to make his request seem less like unreasonable thoughts. I will take care of master's bath. Chu Qing Huang turned around and put down the teacup, and said calmly, is this the only request? Fuekang was silent for a moment, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. My subordinate will sleep with the master at night, so there is no need to ask for a kiss and a hug, right? Chu Qing Huang raised his eyebrows and hummed casually, aren't you worried that there is someone else in my bed? Fuekang shook his head, master won't do it? Can't do anything. I won't like other people. Fuekang stared at Chu Qing Huang's lips, a little impatient, but tried to restrain himself. Master said before that no one in the world is more interesting than me, and they are all not to my liking. I did say that. Chu Qing Huang said calmly, but you have to know that women always like to be duplicitous and are very fickle. Fuekang shook his head, master is not. Are you sure? Master is a man of his word. Fuekang said, you have no joke. Chu Qing Huang clicked his tongue, sure enough, every time I go out, there will be some changes when I come back. Look at this mouth. Fuekang pursed his lips. Will the master think he is a chatterbox? Let's go. Chu Qing Huang turned around and walked out, go back to Changming Palace and reward my little Kang Kang. Little Kang Kang? Fuekang followed beside her, the corners of his lips raised, and he couldn't help but peek at her as he walked. You can watch if you want to, and you can kiss if you want. There's no need to be secretive. Chu Qing Huang's voice was calm, are you worried that I will punish you for an offense? No. Fuekang shook his head, this subordinate is dirty, wait until he is clean before kissing. After traveling such a long way, he was so fast and dusty all the way. He wished he could put on his wings and fly back to see his master. Naturally, he didn't even have time to take a shower. When Chu Qing Huang heard this, he couldn't hold it back anymore and stretched out his hand to pinch his face. Did Qi Ling say anything else? The situation in northern Xinjiang is not good, but the cavalry is sturdy and the combat effectiveness cannot be underestimated. Qi Ling plans to capture the thieves first and capture the king first, and capture the prince of northern Xinjiang, so that they can use rat weapons to reduce our casualties. Fuekang, he said, before my subordinate came back, he had already made a plan. Chu Qing Huang hummed, why didn't you stay to help him? Fuekang was silent for a moment, and his voice was calm and calm. Qi Ling is the commander-in-chief of the army and the leader of the dragons. If his subordinates point fingers without authorization, it will only disturb the morale of the army, so there is no need to help him. Chu Qing Huang said, you can help him capture the Prince of Northern Xinjiang. Capturing the Prince of Northern Xinjiang is a major opportunity for meritorious service. Fuekang said, Qi Ling can do it himself. He also has many masters and archers who are proficient in capture under his command. If the opportunity for meritorious service is given to the right person, he can do it more good for boosting morale and inspiring people. His duty is only to transport food and fodder, and he should not take credit from others, unless the army really needs it, then that is another matter. When Chu Qing Huang heard this, he raised his eyebrows and smiled, you know a lot. Fuekang lowered his eyebrows and said humbly, I still have a lot to learn, and I will need more guidance from my master in the future. Chu Qing Huang raised the corners of his mouth but said nothing more. Returning to Changming Palace, Chu Qing Huang asked the palace staff to prepare hot water. Yuan Bao arranged for someone to do it, and the hot water quickly filled the bathtub. Chu Qing Huang dismissed all the palace people and said to Fuekang, how will I serve you today? Ah! Fuekang was stunned and shook his head repeatedly, I don't dare. I am willing. Fuekang still shook his head, no. Chu Qing Huang frowned, do you want to wash it? Wash? Fuekang nodded. Take off your clothes and go in. Chu Qing Huang pointed to the steaming tub, If you dare to resist the order, you will be dragged out and beaten with 100 sticks. Fu Kang was silent and then hesitantly said, "But, do you want to comply with the decree or do you want to resist?" Chu Qing Huang sat down on the brocade couch next to him and gave him two choices. If you comply with the decree, you can take off your clothes and go in for a soak now. If you want to resist the decree, go out and get 100 Ting's rod, you decide. Fu Kang was silent for a long time, overcoming the shyness in his heart, and felt that those who know the current affairs are the heroes. He rushed back day and night, not to be beaten, but to be more gentle with his master. So Fu Kang turned around and went to the inner hall, took out a set of clean clothes from the cupboard, came back, undressed and took off his belt in front of Chu Qing Huang. After taking off only a pair of trousers, he became even more embarrassed. Chu Qing Huang said calmly, "Do you want to take it off yourself, or should I have someone come in to help you?" After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 454. Fu Kangjun's face heated up, and he quickly took off his obscene pants, turned his back to Chu Qing Huang, stepped into the tub, and shrank into the water. "I've seen it all, why are you hiding?" Chu Qing Huang's voice was lazy, and his expression was a bit playful. "You have a good figure, strong and tight, as perky as it should be, as thin as it should be, and without any blemishes, so what are you afraid of?" Fu Kang leaned against the tub, suppressing the heat on his face, raising his eyes slightly to look at Chu Qing Huang, and said in a gentle voice, "Master, just like it?" "Huh?" Chu Qing Huang smiled faintly, "Aren't you shy anymore? Such a down-to-earth and generous attitude is rare." Fu Kang shook his head slowly, "My subordinate is a man, so I can't act like a little wife all the time. Over time, the master will get bored." "Bored?" Chu Qing Huang raised his eyebrows. "Who said I would be bored? A man should stand upright, this is what the master said before." Fu Kang's memory was so good that he could memorize everything Chu Qing Huang said. "My subordinates are men, and they can't be shy like a mother." Chu Qing Huang was silent for a moment, stood up and walked to him, picked up the silk next to him and threw it into the bathtub. The water-soaked silk rubbed against Fu Kang's strong back, and said calmly, "Just be yourself, let it take its course. Naturally, follow your heart and don't be too anxious to change yourself." Fu Kang's expression changed in shock, and he turned around quickly. "Master." "Turn around." Chu Qing Huang frowned, "I'll wipe your back." Fu Kang pursed his lips, "I am supposed to serve the master, how can I let the master do such a thing? What kind of thing is this?" Fu Kang remained silent. "As long as it's something you do willingly, you won't feel wronged, and you don't have to feel wronged on my behalf." Chu Qing Huang poured water from his head and looked at his embarrassed face, and couldn't help laughing. "Besides, if I don't want to do something, do you think anyone in this world can force me to do it?" Fu Kang pursed his lips, "But you don't like it?" Fu Kang's nerves froze and he quickly shook his head, "No. That's all right." Chu Qing Huang raised his arm, "Let me see how much dust you have accumulated on your body these days." Fu Kang blushed, "This subordinate deserves to die. He should find an inn outside, clean himself up, and then enter the palace to see his master. You work for me, why do I still dislike you?" Chu Qing Huang's voice was indifferent, "The soldiers guarding the border are caught up in the war. It is lucky to be able to save one's life through blood and sweat. Who can guarantee that his body is spotless?" Fu Kang was startled, then closed his eyes and fell silent. He knew the truth. When he was a shadow guard, he never cared about whether he was dirty or not. It was impossible to be clean anyway. He had to eat and sleep outside all year round, bleeding was common, and bathing was even more luxurious. For their status, in the summer, if they take a bucket of cold water from the well and wash away the blood and sweat, it is considered a bath. In the winter, if they are not stained with blood, they usually don't wash if they can, even if they are shadow guards. Most of the time it's life-saving. When the master asks them to die, they go to die without frowning. When the master asks them to live, they are still willing to live a few more days even if their life is not easy. In winter, the water freezes, making it too cold for people to bear. It is not that convenient for shadow guards to use medicine. A cold wind may kill them. Since the change of master, nearly 2 years of improvement in life, pampering with fine clothes and fine food, and the gradual enrichment of emotions and desires have almost made Fukang forget what kind of cruel environment he lived in at the beginning. Thinking about it now, it feels like he is in another world. How many people are there in Anj now? Chu Qing Huang wiped his back, and the silk threads went down from his shoulders and neck. You, the leader of Anj, didn't you help Anj get some benefits? Fukang regained consciousness and subconsciously stood up. Sit tight. Chu Qing Huang held his shoulders and said in a leisurely voice, I'll have a casual chat with you. You can tell me whatever you think. Fukang sat back in the tub in silence. Unexpectedly, he was not able to hug and kiss his master immediately after he came back. Instead, he sat naked in the tub and discussed the secret pavilion with his master. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 455. Ziki Dark Pavilion was established not long ago, and the mechanism is not perfect. If you have any ideas, please tell me and we will discuss it together. Chu Qing Huang's voice was very calm, but I don't know if it was because of the layer of mist. There is always a soft feeling when listening to it, at least it can extend the life of the shadow guards. Otherwise, it is not cost-effective to spend so much time and money to train the shadow guards who only have a few years of golden life. Fukang thought for a moment and nodded slowly. Master is right. If you want to prolong your life, you have to start with the training mechanism. You can't overexert your physical strength and diet. You have time to draw up a brochure for me. Write it in detail and I will read it slowly. Fukang paused slightly and responded respectfully, yes. As long as you think it is reasonable, you can mention it with confidence and boldness. I will never think that you are using your power for personal gain. Fukang turned around to face Chu Qing Huang, holding her hand. Master loves me, I know. Chu Qing Huang looked at him without saying a word. I have nothing to repay in this life. I only wish to pledge myself to you in this life and serve my master all my life. Fukang kissed her hand devoutly, like a pet coquettishly. I also hope that in the next life, I will wear a grass ring and serve as a pawn for my master. I act like a cow and a horse to repay my master for his kindness. It's not just a promise for this life, but also a promise for the next life. Chu Qing Huang's eyes fell on the top of his head. You are really not greedy. Fukang smiled. If the master is willing, I want to decide the master's life in advance. No matter how many reincarnations there are, I want to be by the master's side. It's a pity that the past and present lives may be just talk. Mortals have never died, so who knows whether there will be an afterlife. Even if there is an afterlife, the future will probably be forgotten. The wish for the next life is just a wish. Chu Qing Huang patted his head. The water is almost cold. Come out quickly after washing. With that said, he turned around and walked into the inner hall. After Fukang finished taking a bath, he got up, wiped himself clean, put on a loose robe and walked into the inner hall, and got into bed without saying a word. What? Fukang looked at her innocently. My subordinate is sleepy. Chu Qing Huang looked at the shadow under his eyes and knew. How long have you not slept? 2 days. Fukang turned around and lay on the bed. Master, you can take a look at my legs. The inside is red and swollen. It has been worn and swollen from riding horses for too long. Chu Qing Huang opened her robe and took a look. Sure enough, there was a circle of redness and swelling. She didn't notice it when she took off her clothes just now, but now it became more obvious after being soaked in water. You deserve it, Chu Qing Huang sneered. You finished the urgent things late, can't you take it easy when you come back? I don't limit when you must come back. It's my fault. I was in such a hurry to see the master that I couldn't take any time to rest. Fu Kang raised his head and kissed Chu Qing Huang, admitting his mistake tenderly. Fortunately, you can buy horses along the way, otherwise even if I have such good physical strength, even the horses can't bear it. Chu Qing Huang raised his eyebrows. You also know that the horse can't bear it. Fu Kang reached out and hugged Chu Qing Huang's waist, burying his head in her belly. When I went there, I didn't feel much because I was worried about food and grass. When I came back, I was alone. I wished I could put on my wings and fly back to see my master, so I didn't even bother to rest. Don't you want to see me sooner, master? Chu Qing Huang's tone was calm. I really didn't think much about it. After all, I recently met a man. He is quite handsome, knowledgeable, humble, and polite. Except for his martial arts skills, he is not as good as you in other aspects. Fu Kang pursed his lips and looked at her innocently. He couldn't help but smile at the corners of his lips. Master, are you talking about the young master you who was beaten with a cane for 15 times? Chu Qing Huang was silent. He is too proud. He can be a minister, but cannot be anything else. Fu Kang's voice was calm. He is not as obedient as me and not as docile as me. He will definitely not be in line with the master's wishes. You know again. My subordinates guessed it, Fu Kang said innocently and couldn't help but laugh. Master said it himself before. If you want me to believe him, he even married me and we can't be separated in this life. Chu Qing Huang's tone was calm. You are quite well informed. Even Yu Kaiubai knew that he had been beaten with 15 strokes of a stick. Fu Kang was silent for a moment, then knelt down and stood up, and explained obediently, my subordinates did not place any help around the master, but they only found out after listening to some people's discussions in the imperial city when they came back. It's been so long, and people are still talking about it. Fu Kang said, there is not much discussion in restaurants and tea houses anymore, but there are still people in places where there are many aunts and 6 wives happily chatting about this matter. Chu Qing Huang hummed, without comment. Fu Kang narrowed his eyes and thought for a while, then asked casually, Master, do you have a good impression of Yu Kaiubai? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 456. Chu Qing Huang raised her eyes to look at him lightly. I have a good impression indeed. Fu Kang was silent. Didn't I say it just now? Yu Kaiubai is well educated, good looking, and a bit arrogant. In general, he has some character of a scholar. If he hadn't been implicated by King Xian and caused the Yu family to lose power, he could have been even more noble. Fu Kang listened to the sour words, but still said generously, Master, you have a keen eye, and there will be more and more capable ministers around you, and each one is better than the last. Yet. Fu Kang sighed, so I still have to work hard and can't be outdone by them. It seems that the sense of crisis is always there. Chu Qing Huang saw that he looked tired, and couldn't bear to tease him anymore. She reached out and touched his head. Don't worry, they can't beat you. Get some sleep, get up in the evening to eat, and talk about it in the evening. Fu Kang hummed, and really lay down on the bed obediently. When he closed his eyes, he didn't forget to hold Chu Qing Huang's arms with both hands. Chu Qing Huang stared at the shadow under his eyes and looked at his slightly haggard face. She felt a little distressed, but more relieved, just like the process of a young eagle finally becoming an eagle step by step after a period of training and growth. No one knew the initial appearance of this sensitive and inferior shadow guard better than her. Such a rapid growth and transformation was actually beyond her expectations. Sure enough, the strong just need an opportunity. The biggest obstacle is oneself. As long as you get out of the barrier in your heart, no difficulty is a difficulty. Chu Qinghuang got up and walked out, and ordered Yuanbao to bring her a box of ointment. Yuanbao didn't ask anything and obeyed the order. Standing at the gate of the palace and looking out, the huge palace is prosperous and wealthy, with palaces and pavilions lined up one after another, showing the most noble status and power in the world. It is a place that many people yearn for. However, being here, if there is no sincere person around to join hands, the taste of loneliness is also a torment that others cannot understand. Yuanbao brought the ointment, Chu Qinghuang took it, turned around and walked into the inner hall. Lifting Fu Kang's robe, revealing two thin long legs, Chu Qinghuang applied a layer of medicine on the inner side of his rubbed thigh. Fu Kang actually woke up the moment Chu Qinghuang got up. Feeling that his master had left, he couldn't help feeling a little disappointed, but soon he heard Chu Qinghuang calling Yuanbao for medicine, and Fu Kang understood something, lying on the bed, with a touch of warmth in his heart. After waiting for a long time, he heard the familiar footsteps coming back. Fu Kang already knew what his master was going to do, and his heart was warm and a little shy, so he didn't dare to open his eyes. Sure enough, not long after, he felt a layer of cool feeling wrapped around the inner side of his thigh, and the stinging pain of the rubbed skin and swelling was instantly relieved a lot. This pain was actually nothing to Fu Kang, but he was now a person who was loved by someone, and he wanted to act like a spoiled child when he had the chance to make his master feel sorry for him. Is it a bit too hypocritical? Fu Kang thought silently. He knew that his master was of noble status and had probably never applied medicine to anyone in his life. However, he was greedy for such tenderness and closed his eyes to pretend to sleep, unwilling to break the tranquility at this moment. Chu Qinghuang didn't think too much. He applied medicine to him, pretending not to know that Fu Kang was awake. After washing his hands, he turned back and lay on the bed with him to catch up on sleep. Just after lying down for a while, the wolf cub next to him stretched out his long arms and domineeringly wrapped her whole body in his arms. He muttered a few words in a low voice, and it was unknown what he said, and then fell asleep. Chu Qinghuang smiled and let him go. The feeling of pampering someone is actually quite good. Thinking of her father pampering her mother for decades, at this moment she seemed to be able to experience the taste of sweetness. People who are naturally cold and indifferent, once they fall in love with someone, they really pamper and indulge them for a lifetime. Seeing his eyebrows and eyes happy is her own happiness. This sleep lasted until the evening. The sleeping time was not long, 2 hours, in fact, just to make up for the sleep. I have to sleep again at night. After getting up, washing and changing clothes, Chu Qinghuang ordered people to prepare dinner. The palace servants quickly became busy. Because Fu Kang came back, Changming Palace unconsciously became a little more lively. Although it was not obvious, the palace servants could clearly feel that Her Majesty was in a good mood, and the tone of her speech was different from usual. Her expression was also much more relaxed, not as majestic and cold as usual. Yuanbao watched from the side, secretly thinking that the harem should soon have a royal husband in charge, but he didn't know what title Her Majesty's royal husband should be given. Male queen? It's weird. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 457. You all get down. Yes, Yuan Bao led the palace people and bowed out. Chu Qinghuang walked to the dining table and sat down, saying calmly, I plan to get married this year. Fu Kang, who was following him, had not yet sat down when he heard the sentence and was stunned. This year? Master. Fu Kang looked at her silently and asked hesitantly, who are you marrying? What do you think? Hearing her tone, Fu Kang sat down silently and said, I haven't started teaching yet, so I'm afraid Master won't agree. I'll agree. Kang pursed his lips and nodded slowly, yes. Chu Huang looked at him, laugh if you want to, do you still need to hide your emotions in front of me? Kang raised his eyes and raised the corners of his mouth little by little, after we get married, will I have to stay in the harem? Do you want to stay in the harem? Chu Huang asked while eating. This lifestyle like an ordinary couple is relaxing, you can choose any place to live in the harem. Kang struggled, I still want to sleep with the master. The palace rules are strict. Isn't it the master who has the final say in the palace rules? Kang tried hard to argue, the master is the biggest in this palace. Whatever the master says is whatever he says. Even if all the palace rules are overturned, no one would dare to object. Do you think I'm really that powerful? Chu Huang raised his eyebrows. The civil and military officials of the Manchu dynasty always value the interests of their own family. If the king governs the country well and controls his subordinates well, then they can be so obedient and honest. If it really comes to the point of arousing public anger, when the time comes, see if they object. Kang said meekly, my master is wise and powerful, and it is impossible for him to make a mistake that would make people angry. Don't flatter me all the time, Chu Huang reminded casually, the future royal wife must be calm, unsmiling, cold and dignified. If you flatter him frequently, you will make people think you are frivolous and unqualified to honor the world. Father honors the world? This was the first time that Kang heard this statement, and his expression was slightly strange. However, he quickly put aside this emotion and only focused on the 4 words Your Majesty the Imperial Concubine, twisting the title between his lips and teeth. A sense of responsibility arises spontaneously. Once he was just the shadow guard of his master, but now he is the royal husband of the entire 11 Chi world. Although he still belongs to his master, because his master is the master of the world, he also takes on the responsibility of this world. With responsibilities on your shoulders, you must learn to bear more, consider more, take a long-term view, and no longer be limited to simple personal relationships between children. Let's have a meal, Chu Huang said calmly. After dinner, we went out for a walk and then came back to take a bath. Kang came to his senses and raised his eyes silently, should I wash it with the master? Yeah, Chu Huang raised his eyebrows and smiled lazily, let's take a Mandarin duck bath together. Kang's face instantly heated up, and his heart filled with anticipation. The bright moon is in the sky, and the moonlight is as bright as a ray of light. The palace people were preparing hot water for Her Majesty the Queen to bathe. Chu Huang and Kang were walking on the quiet palace road, enjoying the romance of strolling under the moonlight. Did my father write to you during this time? Kang shook his head, no. You didn't write a letter either. I sent a letter to Master in the first month, informing me of the situation here. Kang said, Master didn't reply. Escorting the food and fodder was an important matter, but it would inevitably delay his return to Canyon Mountain, so he wrote a letter to inform him of the situation. Although he did not receive a reply, Kang knew that the master should have no objection. Chu Huang hummed. After completing the task of escorting food and fodder, I should actually go back to Canyon Mountain to pay my respects to master and mistress, but after weighing it in my mind, I still think I should go back to the palace to see the master first, Kang said, adding, no big deal. Go back and get beaten by the master. Chu Huang raised his eyebrows, it sounds like master beats you often. Kang shook his head honestly, that's not true. Master spends most of his time with his wife. He is completely indulgent to me and relies entirely on self-discipline. The master is only responsible for making requests. No matter what method Kang uses, as long as it is completed in time, he almost lets everything else go. It may seem like a lazy and free-spirited way of discipline, but its severity is definitely not something that ordinary people can achieve. The two of them had been separated for 3 months, chatting from private matters to state affairs, and from business affairs to private matters again. They talked about whatever came to mind in a relaxed and leisurely tone, like a pair of friends who knew each other well. However, upon returning to the palace, friends instantly turned into lovers, and leisure turned into charm. Especially when Chu Qinghuang calmly said, "Change clothes." The tip of Fu Kang's heart palpitated, and his outstretched hand was trembling a bit. "Why are you shaking?" Chu Qinghuang tilted his head. "I remember that you and I bathed together at the eldest princess's mansion 2 years ago, and I didn't see you being shy at that time." "It's different," Fu Kang whispered. "At that time, my subordinates were just shadow guards. It was their duty to obey their master's orders. They were focused on nothing and had few emotions and desires, so naturally they were not shy." "What now?" Fu Kang's voice became gentler. "This subordinate's heart is full of master, and he has tasted the taste of love. When we are naked, we are always worried that we don't have enough self-control." After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 458. When you are deeply in love, skin-to-skin contact is the most direct way of expression. "There is nothing to be shy about," Chu Qinghuang said calmly. "I have always been unwilling to be bound by rules, because many rules in this world teach people to suppress their nature and restrain themselves. Joy, hidden desires, many things that are open and honest are always covered up, as if they are too shameful." After taking off her clothes and stepping into the bathtub, Chu Qinghuang leaned against the wall of the pool. "Who knows, the more people like to talk about benevolence, justice, and morality, the more they do hypocritical and dirty things in private." Fu Kang undressed and walked out of the bath, standing a little further away with some restraint. "May I give you a squeeze on master's shoulders?" "What?" Chu Qinghuang looked up at him. "You are so far away from me, are you afraid that I will eat you?" Fu Kang shook his head. "I'm worried that I won't be able to control myself and will eat my master." Chu Qinghuang was surprised. "You actually learned to tease me?" "No," Fu Kang sighed, "I'm just telling the truth." He was really worried that he had poor self-control, and his master had repeatedly emphasized that he was not allowed to take cold showers. What could he do in this situation? Chu Qinghuang snorted and said in a light voice, "I just like to see you unable to restrain yourself, but you have to restrain yourself forcefully." Fu Kang pursed his lips. "Master, what kind of bad habit is this? Besides, this is your own request." "I'm just fulfilling your wish," Chu Qinghuang reminded him. "Don't tell me that you regretted it." Fu Kang. He did regret it a bit. It was just shooting himself in the foot. Even though his self-control is so weak, he still has to take the initiative to provoke him. If I had known, he could have made other requests first, such as sleeping with me. Well, that's not possible. Sleeping with someone requires the status of husband and wife. Fu Kang thought, is it possible to get it right in one step, hold the wedding ceremony first, and then have a beautiful wedding night? It seems okay to think so. Get married, wash the couple, and enjoy the flowers and candles in the wedding room when everything is done. The more Fu Kang thought about it, the more wonderful it became, but the reality was that he had already wasted the opportunity, and his master had already wanted to get married, but he missed this opportunity. Chu Qinghuang leaned against the wall of the pool, watching him struggle and hearing his annoyance, with a smile on her lips. "Tisk. Your Majesty." There was a sound of hurried footsteps outside, and then Yuan Bao knelt down outside the hall and reported, "Commander Chu has something urgent to report." Chu Qinghuang frowned. Fu Kang came back to his senses and turned his head to look outside. "Master, let's soak for a while." "I'll go down and take a look." Fu Kang stood up and walked out. He casually grabbed his own clothes and put them on. When he turned around, he saw Chu Qinghuang also walking out of the bath. "Master." Chu Qinghuang said calmly, "Chu Xuanyi is anxious to see me at this time. It should not be a trivial matter. I will go and have a look." Fu Kang hummed, quickly brought a towel, and carefully served Chu Qinghuang to wipe off his clothes. Chu Xuanyi's power is not small. He usually doesn't need to go out to report to Chu Qinghuang for matters he can handle. At this time, he came to see him in a hurry. Apart from the urgent matter, the people involved should not be handled by him. The Mandarin duck bath was interrupted. Fukang didn't know whether he was disappointed or relieved. He lowered his eyebrows and lowered his eyes to help Chu Qinghuang get dressed, and the two of them walked out together. Chu Qinghuang ordered Yuan Bao to call Chu Xuanyi in, sat down in front of the couch, and asked lightly, "What's the matter?" After Chu Xuanyi entered the palace, he first saluted and said hello, and soon reported, "Dali Temple has just sent people to arrest Wen Li, the legitimate son of Wen Xingyun, the Minister of Household Affairs, and Han Yi, the eldest son of the Changxi Marquis Mansion, and blocked the gate of the Jinjun Prince's mansion." Chu Qinghuang was surprised, "Blocked the gate of Jinjun Prince's mansion?" "Yes." Chu Xuanyi nodded. "Master Pan said that Prince Jin was involved in a case, but Prince Jin is a member of the royal family and has an extraordinary status. The minister of Dali Temple has no right to arrest people, but for some reason he refused to do so. Retreat. I heard from my subordinates about this matter and realized that the situation was serious, so I came to ask for your majesty's instructions." Chu Qinghuang frowned. "Is Minister Wen's son also involved?" "Yes." "What exactly happened?" Master Pen refused to say anything. He only said that Prince Jin made a mistake that he shouldn't have made, and ordered people to keep an eye on Prince Jin to prevent him from acting alone. Chu Qinghuang said thoughtfully, "Fukang exist. Go and see what's going on." Chu Qinghuang said, "Since Lord Pan wants to keep an eye on Chu Tianyin, you should arrange for 2 people to keep him under guard, and then let Lord Pan enter the palace. I want to know what happened." "What happened?" "Yes." Fukang accepted the order and left. "Your Majesty," another guard hurriedly came in from outside the palace and knelt down on one knee. "Master Wen, Minister of the Ministry of Revenue, begs to see you." Chu Xuanyi frowned. "It should be for Wen Li." Chu Qinghuang only said one word, "Pass." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 459. When Wen Xingyun came in, he knelt on the ground and cried, "Your Majesty, the dog is wronged. Please make the decision for me. Please make the decision for me." Chu Qinghuang frowned and said lightly, "What did Wen Li commit?" Master Pan said that he participated in the murder of a good girl. Chu Qinghuang's expression changed, and her relaxed demeanor suddenly turned cold. "Conspiracy to kill a good girl." Wen Xingyun quickly cried out, "The dog has been wronged. I beg your Majesty to see clearly." Chu Qinghuang sat up straight and said coldly, "What is going on? Why don't you tell me quickly?" Master Pan, the minister of Dali Temple, sent someone to arrest someone from Wei Chen's house, but he couldn't help but arrest the dog. I didn't dare to stop him, but I was really unjust. Wen Xingyun kowtowed. Pan Yun also arrested the prince of Changxi Marquis House. The eldest son, even the king of Jin County wants to arrest him. He seems to be crazy. Chu Qinghuang's face was as dark as frost, and she turned to look at Chu Xuanyi. "You haven't heard anything?" "I missed it." Chu Xuanyi knelt down. "I really don't know what the situation is yet." Chu Qinghuang frowned and closed his eyes in deep thought without saying a word. The situation should be quite serious. Pan Yun, as the minister of Dali Temple, openly sent people to arrest the son of the imperial official, and even dared to block the door of the prince's palace. He must have evidence in his hand, otherwise he would not be like this. But why didn't he report it to heaven? The silence in Changming Palace was so quiet that you could hear a needle drop, making people feel oppressive. Wen Xingyun didn't dare to speak anymore. It wasn't until Master Pan arrived at Changming Palace and Yuan Bao reported that Chu Qinghuang said directly, "Let him come in." "Yes." Pan Yun walked in and knelt down directly. "I send my regards to Her Majesty the Queen. Long live your Majesty." "Don't live long, what's going on?" Chu Qinghuang's eyes were heavy. "It's so good, why did you lead people to block the gate of Jin County Prince's mansion?" "Your Majesty," Pan Yun pulled out a secret letter from his sleeve, "the situation is urgent. My behavior today is not in line with the rules, but I did it out of necessity." "Your Majesty, please read the secret letter first." "Send it up." Yuan Bao took the letter, turned around and delivered it to Chu Qinghuang. "This is a secret report I just received today. I don't know who submitted it yet, but the letter said that there is a dungeon in the prince's mansion of Jin County. There are as many as 30 young girls in the dungeon, all of whom are 13 years old. There is no girl who has left the court before the age of 15. Chu Xuanyi's expression suddenly froze. "A young girl?" After Chu Qinghuang read the letter, his expression turned bone-chilling. His eyes fell on those lines, and deep anger appeared in his eyebrows. "Prince Jin plans to use medicine to control these girls tonight, so that they can be used for his own purposes. If any of them are disobedient, they will be blinded and sent to the hook." Pan Yun's tone was deep and angry, and he could hear the suppressed emotions. "I have finished reading. After writing the letter, I was horrified, so I quickly led people to block the gate of Jinjun Palace. I have overstepped my bounds. When the truth is revealed, I am willing to be punished by your Majesty." Wen Xingyun's face changed greatly. "Young girls are being held in the dungeon of the Prince's Palace of Jin County? How is it possible? With the world at the feet of the Emperor, how dare he do such a thing? Besides, even if it is true, what does it have to do with Kwanzaa? Why did Master Pan bring people with him? Capture the dog and put him in jail." Pan Yun ignored him and said respectfully, "The people involved were the legitimate son of Wen Shangshu and the eldest son of the Marquis of Changxing. After I sent people to capture them, I wanted to go to the palace to report to His Majesty, but I was worried about alarming Jin County. The king will let him destroy the evidence, which will be detrimental to those girls, so he blocked the gate of the prince's palace first, and sent people to follow the Prince of Jin in order to delay him and prevent him from having a chance to take action. Once things get serious, the news will spread to the palace quickly. Even if he doesn't go to the palace to report, Her Majesty the Queen will soon know about it." Wen Shangshu's face turned pale. "Master Pan is spitting blood." "Kwanzaa." "Shut up." Chu Qinghuang looked at him coldly. "How is it appropriate to yell? Are there any rules left?" "Your Majesty, forgive me." Wen Xingyun kowtowed repeatedly. "Kwanzaa is really unjust. Please understand, Your Majesty. Whether Wen Li is unjust or not, it will become clear when the truth is found out. There is no need for you to cry and shout as if a disaster is about to happen." Chu Qinghuang stood up. "If he is involved, I will never forgive him lightly. If he is innocent, I will give him justice." With that said, he walked out. "As for whether there are any of these girls in the dungeon of Jinjun Prince's mansion, I will find out in person soon." She already understood Pan Yun's intention. As the minister of Dali Temple, he is not qualified to search the palaces of princes and nobles. Leading people to block the palace of Jinjun is the most risky move he can do. The only way is to alert Her Majesty the Queen and let Chu Qinghuang go to Jinjun in person. Only the prince's palace can find out the truth as quickly as possible and prevent Prince Jin from transferring those innocent women and destroying the evidence during this period. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbs feed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the divorce, the princess was forced to raise a sickly villain. Author, Nan Huang. Chapter 460. Of course, this premise is that he is sure that the current queen is a monarch who truly governs the world. When it comes to innocent girls, whether he has violated the rules first or not, it is definitely what Her Majesty will do to find out the truth. If it were any other emperor, Pan Yun's actions would undoubtedly be courting death. The officers and soldiers sent by the Dali temple surrounded the Jinjun prince's mansion. In the wide courtyard and winding corridors of the palace, there were officers and soldiers standing guard everywhere. Chu Tianyan's steps were anxious, and he wished he could chop the person who followed him step by step. "Can you stop following me?" Chu Tianyan looked at Fu Kang impatiently, his eyes cold and full of hostility. "Pan Yun left, and here comes a thing like you. Are you really not going to let me have a good life?" If it was said that before he lost power, these lowly things dared to be so presumptuous in his palace. Fu Kang responded indifferently and ignored his shouting. His eyes swept around, on the corridor, in the courtyard, under the eaves. In addition to the officers and soldiers sent by the Dali temple, there were several pairs of eyes staring at Chu Tianyan, as if waiting for him to give orders. However, Chu Tianyan, who was being monitored, could not say anything, and he did not even dare to show his hints easily. Fu Kang knew it. The Dali temple came to block the door tonight not out of thin air, but for a reason. Chu Tianyan looked at Fu Kang coldly, turned around and walked northwest. Fu Kang followed silently. When they reached the inner courtyard, 4 men in black jumped out and blocked Fu Kang's way directly. Fu Kang still ignored it and followed Chu Tianyan. The 4 men in black attacked together, but before they touched the corner of Fu Kang's clothes, they were instantly knocked out by Fu Kang's palm. Chu Tianyan's face was ashen. "What on earth do you want to do?" He turned and stared at Fu Kang, his eyes were sharp and his face was extremely ugly. "I'm going to the toilet, and you want to follow me." Fu Kang had regained his indifferent and taciturn temper at this time. He really didn't want to say a word to Chu Tianyan at this moment. Anyway, as long as he could ensure that Chu Tianyan was in his sight, he had no interest in anything else. Chu Tianyan's vicious eyes were of no concern to him. But Fu Kang knew in his heart that if something shameful really happened in the Prince of Jin's mansion, then the Dark Chamber should have failed in its duty recently, because it did not discover the abnormality in advance, allowing people to do things that they shouldn't do under their noses, and the master only got the news after alarming the Dali temple. Recently, it was indeed because there were too many things, and the masters who left the Dark Chamber were arranged by him to escort food and grass. Fu Kang thought in his heart that perhaps he should add some more people. "Master Pen of the Dali temple is committing a crime of disrespect and disregarding me." "You are committing a crime of disrespect as well," Chu Tianyan sneered. "Chu Qinghuang wants to eliminate dissidents, but there is no need for such a despicable method." Fu Kang finally spoke, his voice as cold as iron. "Calling the king by his name is a crime of disrespect, and he can be killed directly." Chu Tianyan closed his eyes and sneered sarcastically. "She has wanted to kill me for a long time, so there is no need to find so many excuses." Fu Kang did not speak, too lazy to say. "If she wants to kill me, she can just kill me directly with a plausible reason. Why does she have to humiliate me?" Chu Tianyan's face was filled with anger. "I am no longer a prince, but a county prince. All the families related to me have been uprooted by Chu Qinghuang. Is she still worried?" As soon as the voice fell, a loud shout came from outside. "Her Majesty the Queen has arrived." Everyone knelt down, inside and outside the palace, whether it was officers and soldiers or guards, they all knelt down to welcome the emperor. Chu Tianyan's face turned pale quickly, and he clenched his hands tightly, regretting that he hadn't chopped Pan Yun with a knife just now. "Go out to greet His Majesty." Fu Kang's cold and hard voice sounded in his ears, with an absolute sense of oppression. "This is the rule for being a minister." Chu Tianyan looked at him coldly. "This king remembers you." Fu Kang was silent. "Chu Qinghuang liked to beat you the most in the past." Chu Tianyan's expression was full of sarcasm. "Why, Do slaves like you like to be abused? Do you abuse them and make them loyal to you until death?